Shalom. This is Hawud. So that thing I was telling y'all I was going to show y'all, this is it right here. It's the star. I'm quite sure y'all been out y'all house and y'all seen it. It's really, really, really bright. And last week it was incredibly bright. So now I'm going to give y'all the second part. Alright, so I showed y'all the star. So now I'm going to read this to you. I want to actually skip 2 paragraphs to just get right to it, so y'all know what I'm talking about. But the way it starts with what I just showed y'all, I gotta give y'all some, pretty much what was happening beforehand. So I'm gonna do that first. I'm gonna just start from the beginning. All right. So this is the book of Creation, chapter 4, the affliction of God. This comes from the scrolls of Carabal, the Pacatirin, I can't say that word, who wrote, the forebearers of all the nations of men were once one people, and they were the elect of God, who delivered all the earth over to them. All the people, the beasts of the field, the creatures of the wasteland, and the things that grow. They dwelt through long ages in lands of peace and plenty. There were some who struggled harder, were more disciplined, because their forefathers had crossed the great dark void. Their desires were turned Godward, and they were called the children of God. Their country was undiluted and forested. It was fertile, having many rivers and marshes. There were great mountains to the east and to the west, and in the north was a vast stony plain. Then came the day when all things became still and apprehensive, for God caused a sign to appear. This is what I want y'all to hear. For God caused a sign to appear in the heavens. Now remember what I just showed y'all. Now I'm quite sure y'all been outside and y'all saw that bright behind star. It ain't that comet, because the comet already came. From what they was trying to tell you, it's still a bright star in the sky. And I know last week it was 10 times brighter than what it is now. It was right before the storm when I was telling y'all, I couldn't show y'all what was in the sky. I didn't want to give it away. That's what it was, but it was like extremely bright. So I'm gonna just read this to y'all so y'all can know what I'm talking about. So God caused a sign to appear in the heavens, so that men should know the earth would be afflicted, and the sign was a strange star. If anybody's been looking up in the heavens all last week, that star is not like a normal star. That is an extremely bright star, and it gets brighter, and then sometimes it get a little dimmer, and then it gets brighter again. But that's not a regular star, because it catches your eye. As soon as you go outside and look up, it's right there, so you can't miss it. And I'm quite sure y'all gonna leave me a lot of comments talking about this star, because it's the truth. The star's been out there, and it's really bright. All right, so he left us. He's gonna let the earth know it is gonna be afflicted, and he left a sign. It was a strange star. The star grew and waxed to a great brightness. Right? Didn't I just say that? And was awesome to behold. I said that last week. But put forth horns and sang, being unlike any other ever seen. And that's true. I never seen a star like that. So men, seeing it, said among themselves, surely this is God appearing in the heavens above us. The star was not God, though it was directed by his design. But the people had not the wisdom to understand. Then God manifested himself in the heavens. Now, this is what we need to be paying attention to. So we see the star. And I'm quite sure we probably saying, oh, that's probably the Most High coming to the earth, knowing some of us, right? And we see a bright star. Now, listen to this part. Then God manifested himself in the heavens. Now, remember, the Most High don't change. So if he did it then, did it during this time, he's going to do it again. His voice was like the roll of thunders, and he was clothed with smoke and fire. Remember, he's a ever-consuming fire, right? He carried lightnings in his hand, and his breath falling upon the earth, brought forth brimstones and ambers. His eyes were like a black void, and his mouth an abyss containing the winds of destruction. He encircled the whole of the heavens, bearing upon his back the black robe adorned with the stars. Such was the likeness and the manifestation of God in those days. Awesome was his countenance, terrible was his voice of wrath. The sun and the moon hid themselves in fear, and there was a heavy darkness over the face of the earth. Tell me that's not in the scriptures. Tell me this is not what this is saying in the scriptures. This is actually telling you what we're about to see. With these people, this is why they going to be so scared. God passed through the spaces of the heavens above a mighty roar and a loud trumpeting. A loud trumpet. You hear this? This is in the scriptures, y'all. Then came the grim, dead silence and black, red light, twilight of doom. Then he said it's not going to be dark, and it's not going to be night, and it's not going to be day. Red twilight of doom. There you go. Great fires and smoke rose up from the ground, and men gasped for air. Didn't he say it was going to be they was going to get burnt with that consuming fire? And you got these camps telling you these going to be nuclear bombs. No, it's not. He's telling you what it is right now. So he's telling you great fires rose up from the ground, men gasped for air, the land was rent asunder. That's in that was in Ezekiel where he say he split the but it says a mountain, he split it in twain. But think about it. The land was rent asunder and swept clean by the mighty deluge of the water. A hole opened up in the middle of the land. The waters entered and it sank beneath the seas. The mountains of the east and the west were split apart and stood up in the midst of the waters, which raged about. The northland tilted and turned ever on its side. You talking about land masses turning on their sides. We not talking about no little island or nothing. Like, we talking about land masses. Just crazy. Then again, the tumult and the clamor ceased, and all was silent. In the quiet stillness, madness broke out among men. Frenzy and shouting filled the air. They fell upon one another in senseless, wanton bloodshed. Neither did they spare woman or child, for they knew not what they did. They ran, unseeing, dashing themselves to destruction. They fled to the caves and were buried and taken refuge in trees. They were hung. They were in trees. They were hung. They telling me. There was rape, murder, and violence of every kind. The deluge of the water swept back, and the lands was purged clean. Rain beat down unceasingly, and there were great winds. The surgings of waters overwhelmed the land, and man and his flocks, and the gardens, and all his work ceased to exit. Some of the peoples were saved upon the mountainsides and upon the flotsam, but there were scattered far apart over the face of the earth. They fought for several in the lands of the uncouth people. Amid coldness, they survived in the caves and sheltered places. The land of the little people, and the land of the giants, the land of the necklace ones, and the land of the marshes and mist. The land of the east and the west were inundated. The mountain land and the lands of the south were there. There is gold, and great beasts were not covered by the waters. Men were distracted in despair, and in despair. They rejected the unseen God. Behold, all things for something which they had seen and known by its manifestation. They were less than children in those days, and could not know that God had afflicted the earth in understanding, and not willfully, for the sake of men and the correction of his ways. The earth is not for the pleasure of men, but is a place of instruction for the soul. A man more readily feels the stirrings of his spirit in the face of disaster than in the lap of luxury. Tuition of the soul is a long and arduous course of instruction and training. God is good, and from good evil cannot come. He is perfect, and perfection cannot produce imperfection. Only the limited understanding of man sees imperfection in that which is perfect for his purpose. The grievous affliction of man was another of his great tests. He failed, and in his doing followed the paths of unnatural gods of his making. So it's telling you right here, the man failed, and he followed the path of his unnatural gods that he made, pretty much, of his making. Man makes gods by naming them. Sorry, but where in this is this benefit him? And that's true. You make a god, so you create something, and then you name it, and then you prostrate to it, and you do all this, pretty much like Abraham's father did. And where's the prophet? And it makes sense. It's like what I be telling when I tell people about going to church. You go to church and you praying to a cross. You praying to a piece of wood. You praying to a piece of wood that you sat down, cut, and crafted and molded and nailed together. And what is the wood going to do for you? You see what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. All these religions, like even Islam too, all of them. You got our people going to this stone, walking around, kissing it, hugging it. What? Huh? It don't matter what it is. The Buddha religion is the devil. Period. Any religion is the devil. That's who he created that. All these religions is the same God. They all the same one. So it's just for different denominations. But as we know, we were the Most High's portion, and we supposed to be the light to the world. But we turn around and want to do the same stupid stuff they doing. I mean, listen, you see the star, you see it, and as time go on, and as these days go on, and it's not raining, we keep going outside looking at it, and watch how bright it start getting again. And it's going to look strange. It's not going to look like any other star. Then think about what I read. Think about what I read. So I got to say, y'all, shalom.